I am Andrew Kramer, and thank you guys for coming. We've got a presentation, After Effects, visual effects people here? So some of you guys know what we do at Video Copilot, some of you don't, like my wife. And so I like to just go over it one more time just in case. So we're going to take a look at, just a little video, if you guys don't mind. OK. Here we go, and All right. Thank you. So at Video Copilot, we do a lot of visual effects, and we also do a lot of work with Bad Robot and film titles, visual effects. And what I like to do is bringing some of that experience on some of those projects onto the website and show people how to do some of this stuff inside of After Effects. And what I like to do is create impressive visual effects without using any extra tools. So recently we did a project. I'll play the video, but basically we went for some sort of city destruction, maybe Godzilla kind of looking sequence, and we created a tutorial show everyone exactly how to do it. So let me just show you this, and then I want to show you where we're going to go from there. Let's get these videos out of the way, all right? We got stuff to do.
This summer, get ready for another very exciting tutorial. It's one of those fucking blue things. Coming soon.
All right. So, thank you for this one guy. So on this particular project, it basically combines a ton of different techniques, from 3D tracking to matte paintings. And here's just a few of the things that we did. So we started out with a basic plate of some aerial footage. Somebody thought that I was shooting this with a drone. They're like, hey, you're the reason drones get a bad name because you're flying it over downtown LA. But we're actually in a helicopter, and so that guy, if he's here, he can get out of here. 3D tracking. So using the built-in camera tracker, you can basically create real 3D geometry inside of After Effects. So check this out. I can create a couple of points, right-click, and I can create, say, a solid, and that is now in 3D space. And on top of that, I can also add text. I could add the hole in the wall. So let me just go through a couple of these different layers here to talk about. So the first thing we start out with just sort of some basic debris and some destruction in the windows. And it's all done with simple textures, things like this. So pictures of destruction, pictures of debris. Let me show you exactly what we're talking about. Some stuff like just broken windows, just anything to break up the perfect edges of the windows and make it look like some big creature went through there. and mid, you have to do a lot of work. So the idea of using 3D tracking on an aerial footage is pretty common. So you take your footage, you track it, and then you create your effects within that world. But what I wanted to do is see if we could take these same techniques, creating these concave effects like holes in the wall, and apply it to something like a person. So let me show you another project. And if anyone's eating lunch, well, I don't care. All right, here we go. Did it open up? All right, so where to start? So let's just play this back and take a look. This is my brother, actually. And if anybody knows him, this is an improvement. I told him I was going to say that. He looked at me like this. All right, so you can see some of that same idea. So the trick here is how do you 3D camera track a head? Because the head is moving and it doesn't have that same solid geometry as, say, like a landscape or a city structure. So here is basically what we start out with. Whoa, calm down, buddy. All right, here we go. So we just put some track markers on, always too many, and you guys know, that's what I'm going to do for the last 15 minutes of this presentation is paint these markers out. So let's see. So the first thing you have to do is isolate the head, because you want to think about the head kind of like a landscape. So the camera is flying around it. Since it's in a way, it's just like various edges and various parts of the face can be interpolated by the built-in camera tracker. So once you run it through that process, check this out. Oh, perfect. You get 3D track points just like this. So you can see for the most part, you get some good track points that you can use to extrapolate an actual 3D camera. So, and I've already created the camera, and I've created a solid just like before. And we could do a lot of cool things. We could do some high-tech stuff. For example, I could do like some high-tech hologram sunglasses. Let me see here. Hold on. We got to make this look good. So you see that? Real 3D. Come on. I mean, we can make them blue, and that'd be maybe a drop shadow or something. Let's see here. It's like, and then I just kept going on that same joke for 45 minutes. All right, so how do we get to this point? How do we create these, these concave structures? So we saw this other example right here. Let's play this back and take a look. So I have the quality down just so we can kind of see this here, but oh boy. So it's pretty fun. Who wouldn't want to do this? To your wedding videos, to any of that kind of stuff, right? All right. Let's take a look at a couple of other things that we can do. So if I go to this example, we're using a plugin called Element 3D. It's our plugin, but the idea is to work fast inside of After Effects. So you can use Cineware, you can use render passes, but whatever's going to be able to get you to composite with that camera tracking data. So check this out. We've got this sort of partial face that is mapped to the geometry of a base mesh based on matte. Very intense. And then using basically an alpha channel, we can create the transparency. Notice how it fades off. So the texture has this nice fall off. And that makes it so that it blends nicely with the live action plate of the skin and just helps it to be more integrated. So again, this same example, I'll take a look at the base mesh here so you can see what that looks like. And because we're using a complete mesh of a head, you can get proper occlusion. So one of the issues is that once you get behind the side of the face, you want to make sure that it is occluded by the side of the face so that you can actually look like it's inside of the face or it's inside. Now, again, you don't only have to do, gory, bloody, holes in the face. You can also do things like burn marks and acid and all these other things also. So here's a cool example. Now, what are some other ideas that you could do with this? So you have a shot that needs to take place on camera. So maybe you don't have the makeup to be able to do a bullet wound or to do a cut across someone's face, or you want to be able to save some money or have some time later to change what you want to do. That's one of the things that I like to think about when I use After Effects is, okay, yeah, sometimes it's easier to do it on the day, on set, do it in camera, but sometimes you just can't capture that moment when someone gets hit across the face and you want to add that wound sort of simultaneously instead of a big fight sequence and then they cut to and then he's bleeding. That's just unrealistic. It totally knocks me out of the movies. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he should be ashamed. All right, here's another one. Let's see here. Speaking of Arnold, so this is from the great Kindergarten Cop movie. You want to know something? The movie Terminator 2 came out something like 25 years ago. And now in After Effects, it looks better 25 years ago, frankly. You get the idea, though, I guess. It's all about ideas. That's what we do at Video Copilot. We try to inspire people with what things you can do. And sometimes you're using the same technique in order to show people what else is possible. So I have some examples for that later. Here's another cool thing. You have some CG props. So you've got this cool helmet with some glass. I saw them doing some face tracking with like a mask earlier. That would have been useful for me because, look at this, it's awful. I did this over there by the snack bar because I thought it would just help integrate it a little bit. You can see here this little shadow layer. Look at that. Pretty good. Not that much better, really. Oh, well. OK, so about this example, though, let me try to show you something else here. So in order to get the proper occlusion, so we don't want to see the backside of the helmet, right? So what we have are two floating eyeballs. Wait. There we go, the head. And that head now is used as a mask to occlude the actual actor's face. So it's cool if you don't, if you don't have the budget for some high-tech props, or take a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy. The main character, his helmet kind of animates on. So maybe you have a prop, you convince your friend to like build this great prop, and you use it in your movie, but you want to be able to animate it on or have it come on in a cool way. This is a good solution to just that one insert shot of it kind of going on and then everyone taking off. This is, let's see, what else I was going to talk about. So track markers, actually. Man, this is where it gets exciting, everybody. Just hold on. So I actually used the 3D camera data to clean up the track markers. And what I would do is I would just create a 3D point at each of these track markers. And then you could simply offset the footage. So something like this. So you would basically create a mask around the area. And then offset the layer just a couple clicks, maybe feather it out a little bit. And after about 70 hours or so, and actually it wasn't so bad because the tracking data keeps it pretty close together. So, and then I took those out. We took the green screen plate. Just walking through the process here. And I've got a background. So it looks like this cool kind of high-tech background. It's actually just like a mall, parking lot or something. So just blur it out a little bit. Nobody knows what it could be. It could be something good. All right. This is the 3D tracking with the city. So coming back to the city destruction stuff for a second. Oh, I got to show this video. Maybe I'll show that last. All right, so let me show you these building elements. So in the original city destruction scene, we added 3D geometry, or we added layers to create 3D depth and create destruction. But what I want to show you is actually using real 3D objects to create the destruction, much like with the face and the holes and stuff like that. So let me just kind of scrub through this here. I don't have any motion blur on, but you can kind of get the idea. So check this out. I can go into the scene setup, and we have these objects that are like building blocks. So one of the ways I like to work in After Effects is being able to constantly edit whatever I create. So you never want to get stuck with something because there's always going to be changes. And even when it's done, there's going to be more changes. So you always want to be able to go back and easily change what you're working on. So in this case, we have these sort of building blocks of layers. So we have these steel beams that can be moved around, that can be duplicated and placed inside of this object. So it's very three-dimensional. And the other thing that's cool about it is that no matter what your shot is, if it's an aerial shot, you actually have real dimensionality. So let me turn on this corner element here. And so you get that same idea here. So I could take this corner element and I can rotate it. So I can place it just perfectly wherever I want it. I can adjust the lighting. I could add more destruction, down the street. And this is just something that we're working on right now, and as a way to give our users and After Effects users the ability to basically create 3D stock footage in a way, so that you can take the elements and customize them and edit them and duplicate them and all that great stuff. So it's another good example. So here's a cool thing. So you can see that there's this kind of concrete layer that's fading off, right? But it doesn't exactly match the facade of this building. So what you can do is you can actually hide the front faces of the object. So I could go in here, turn those layers off, and now I have that perfect sort of transparency. And just like that, I have a more believable version of that shot. And again, it's the same stock footage elements, and I'm just customizing it to work the way that I want it to work. So the last thing I want to show you guys is these sci-fi weapons. So again, we like to demonstrate ideas because we create tutorials. And oftentimes I'll get a request saying, hey, can you make a tutorial for this, or can you make a tutorial for that? And sometimes we have a tutorial that already has some of the basic ideas on how you might achieve that effect. Now, I could do two things. One, I could say, look, man, just go learn the stuff. What are you doing? Or a more inspiring approach is that we can show people what else is possible. And that way, then you start, once you understand that there are no limits to these concepts and these techniques, you can start to think about, all right, how can I use these techniques to create what I want? And then that's when artists and people, that's when their vision starts to take over, and the tools are no longer what they focus on. They can start focusing on what is it that I want to create. Now, with that in mind, here's a silly video we made. High budget. Well, thank you guys really for coming out. And I'd just like to say, the new After Effects has some really impressive features. It's fast, but it's up to us to start using it to create amazing things. It's existed, and it will continue to exist and improve, but it's up to us to get in there and create awesome stuff. So thank you guys. I'm Andrew Kramer. I'll be back next year.